What's up, football heads? Welcome back to that show. We are back yet again. Week 12, NOOB football picks. I am Kyle. He is Cesar. Cesar, tell him how you did last week.
I did horribly. I did that. It's above the 500 range. I did 9 to 5. 9 correct picks, 5 incorrect picks. Hello to football heads around, first and foremost. Thank you so much for having me, Kyle, as always. But yes, last week I did not have a good week, especially during the early slate of games. I have a bunch of games that I did not pick correctly. But, it's a new week, new record for most teams. A lot of teams are still on the losing end of the stick. And some teams were surprisingly good last week. Let's talk about the Broncos soon.
I think I might have beat you last week, but I don't keep track of anything, and I have no idea.
See, today I am officially keeping track of your picks as well, my sir. So I know exactly what you picked. I'm going to be, obviously, I know you'll pick your games with the Vikings, so that's obviously going to be just blank for you. But I am picking your teams today, sir.
Well, we'll see how it goes. It means I'm going to go like 2 and whatever the fuck. I don't know how. You said we got 6 teams on bye this week,
yes,
which is a lot. Maybe is this the last week with buys or no?
No, I think we have another week with buys or another 2 weeks with buys. There's a couple of teams that still haven't had buys yet.
Yeah, you're right. I see some week 11 it's on here.
Plus week 8 was one of the few weeks that had 0 teams on buy. So
weird shit. Why week 8? I'm sure they have their reasons. I don't know what they are. But
midpoint, maybe? I don't know.
I guess, but I guess week 9, the end of week 9 is the midpoint. I don't know, whatever. They're weird and they do weird shit.
It's the NFL. They do shit that doesn't make sense all the time. So
football was played, football was enjoyed, and that's what's most important. But
especially last weekend, man. Those games.
Oh yeah,
we had some great games last weekend.
31 fan bases by the end of the day on Sunday went to sleep happy. Yeah.
Yes, ecstatic happiness. Except for the Bengals, they did not go to sleep happy.
No, well, they should have seen this coming. If they listened to the show, they would have known that they should have seen this coming. But we got, I believe, more than half of the games this week are divisional matchups, and overwhelmingly, they are terrible matchups.
Yeah, they are very, very pronounced games where there's a clear favorite and a clear underdog, and most of them are going to be just games that are just going to be wipeouts. People are going to be brushing them, and they're going to be brushing those bad teams to the side and just continue to get wins so that win column. So good for them.
So let's start with one of these divisional wipeouts. 8-2 Pittsburgh Steelers coming off a huge win against Baltimore in Pittsburgh, but now they got firm control of the division, game and a half up. Headed to arch rival Cleveland at 2-8, coming off a game they could have won. They should have won. They were tied through 3 quarters against the Saints last week and just absolutely blew it. Way too many passes, not enough running the ball.
Listen, it's the Browns because they have a new quarterback in front. Watson is out. Gene Winston is good. They're going to be frisky for the rest of the season. They're going to be frisky where they face teams that they might win those games. They're going to be frisky when they think, we're going to make the playoffs or not, like they did last year. They did make the playoffs last year. They were very frisky last year at the bottom of the season. But I do not think they're going to be able to beat the best coached team in the NFL today, the Pittsburgh Steelers. That's my pick.
Yeah, I'm on the Steelers. There's no reason to pick against them. Like if they were going up against the Chiefs or the Lions or someone like that, or even like other similarly ranked teams, Eagles, Vikings, there's some considerations. But at this point, Steelers, their defense is good enough. Their offense is good enough. I know there's spurts where they're not really moving the ball, but the defense is so good that I just can't see Cleveland putting it. I mean, it's Jameis. So maybe he's due for a massive 4-touchdown, no interception performance, but I'm not going to predict that.
They're at home too.
Yeah, well,
they got a home field advantage, which means they're going to see a lot of little Irish caricatures all over the field, even though that's the worst logo in football, according to you.
It's an elf. Why is the Browns mascot a fucking elf? Just roll with the dog. You got a fucking dog. Even
And
just the helmet logo. Your logo is your helmet is better than a fucking elf. It doesn't make sense. It makes no sense.
listen, they had a contest a couple of years ago to choose pick a new logo for the dog logo, and they still haven't made the debut after they finished the contest. I don't know what the hell they're waiting for.
I feel like they've used it a couple times, but it's like they picked the one that I liked the most. It's like just roll with that. It's sick. It's a dog. It's a
It's a
cool
sick
looking dog.
it's a sick logo. The one that won it was a sick logo. It's just like a American Terrier or a Mastiff or whatever, with a helmet on like it's just cool. And it looks cool as fuck. I don't know why they don't use it. It's ridiculous. But yeah, they're not gonna win this game. Let's be honest. If they win this game, it's just gonna be the football gods messing with us, and any given Sunday. But I highly doubt they're gonna win this game.
They're not gonna win this game. And we'll see you next week when they do, and I look like an idiot.
When we both look like idiots.
Yeah. Well, most of America is going to be looking like an idiot outside of Cleveland. Yeah, honestly, probably most of Cleveland is not expecting to win that game. But let's move on to Sunday. 10 a.m. for me, 1 p.m. for most of you out there with the
2
East
p.m.
Coast
in Puerto
bias.
Rico.
2 p.m. in Puerto Rico. The 9-1 Kansas City Chiefs travel across country, well, halfway across country to Carolina to take on the 3-7 red hot Carolina Panthers. Who you got?
I'm going with the Panthers. Of course, I'm not going with the Panthers, dude. I'm going with the Chiefs. They're going to bounce back. They just lost to the Bills in the best way possible. Yes, like the rest of America, except for the ones in Kansas City, I was ecstatic and happy about that loss last week. But they're going to bounce back. They're facing one of the top 3 worst teams in the league right now. So they're
red hot.
They're
red hot.
But they're coming in from the bye. They don't have the momentum. They lost the momentum when they went to the bye. I'm sorry. They're not going to win this game. The Chiefs are going to win this game. It might look just like another sloppy game for the Chiefs where the offense just doesn't work as well as they should be working, but their defense is still really good. So, yeah, they're winning this game. There's no possible way that the Panthers can win this game. I'm sorry. If they do, again, it's like I said with the Browns, it's just the football gods just messing with us and, any given Sunday.
All right, the Carolina Panthers. 3-7, 2 straight wins. They had an extra week. They had the bye week to prepare, to get ready, to get mentally ready, and they sat and they watched the Chiefs. They sat and watched the Chiefs get exposed on a Sunday afternoon against the Buffalo Bills, and they went back into the lab this week and they said, we got the blueprint. We got the blueprint to keep this train rolling. They're not out of it. They are not out of the NFC South race. The Falcons are sliding. The Bucs still haven't gotten any weapons back. The Saints are also red hot, but the bottom is rising. The top is falling. The Panthers are right in the hunt. This is where they want to be. It's been a rough season. It's been a rough half decade. But they're looking at this. They're saying, we got the Chiefs coming into town, into our building. They got that giant Panther graphic jumping in, augmented reality, whatever the hell it is.
It's cool as fuck.
He's going to scare off all the Chiefs on the sideline, and it's just going to be the 11 guys on the field against an entire stadium of screaming Carolina Panther freaks out there to watch their team follow up on what the Bills did last week.
You know what's going to happen?
You know what's going to happen, Cesar? The Kansas City Chiefs are going to win by at least 3 touchdowns. The Panthers have no shot. They have no shot. They're not particularly good at anything. There might be some areas where they're not bad. They've been getting better, obviously, but they haven't beaten anyone. The Chiefs, it was a setback. They were bound to lose a game. They're going to go into Carolina. They need to get right. They understand, listen, we can't overlook this team. We're pissed off about losing to the Bills. We can't afford to slip out of that top seed, that top spot. They're going to be on top of their shit. And are they going to win by 3 touchdowns? Maybe, maybe not. But I do think this is going to be Kansas City's most convincing win of the season thus far, despite the extra bye week that Carolina had. Sorry. It's not going to happen.
That's exactly true. I mean, the Kansas City Chiefs have been struggling offensively all season. Mahomes has more interceptions than he has touchdowns, all right? He does. He ended the game last week against the Bills. His last drive was a big interception. All right? He's not playing well. The offense is not gelling together. They're not coming together and making the big plays that they are used to making. The Kansas City Chiefs of 2 years ago, they were, one of those fantasy teams who were doing stupid, like, ring around the rosies before they do the snap the ball. They were having fun and getting all clever and fun. They're not doing that anymore. They're not yelling. They're not coming together cohesively to make those explosive plays offensively. The defense, though, that's another story. They're playing really well. Special teams is playing really well. And that's why they were winning. Unfortunately, Buffalo Bills play a better game. They got the upper hand. They were at home. That atmosphere was ecstatic. But there's no way that the Panthers are winning this game. I'm sorry. You're absolutely right.
Speaking of powerhouse defenses, we got two good defensive teams, one good offensive team, one struggling. The 8-2, my Minnesota Vikings, traveling to Soldier Field to take on the 4-6 Chicago Bears, losers of 4 straight, but they're at home. Who you like in this one?
I mean, the Bears organization as a whole has been responsible for the decline and destruction of 2 rookie quarterbacks in back-to-back seasons. Caleb Williams is just turning into another Justin Fields story when it comes to the Chicago Bears, obviously. Because Justin Fields in the Steelers, although not great, was doing much better. There's not a chance in the world that they can beat the Vikings. I know you have your doubts. I know you're I see your face. I know you're superstitious. I know that when you are looking good, something happens when you just get, thrown out of the top of the mountain. But it's the Chicago Bears. These people, like the fans, the organization, they are just at a point where they're just hopeless. They don't know what to do. They have no weapons whatsoever. They're done. They need to continue to rebuild. They need to get a new head coach. But they're not going to do it because they are stubborn. So I'm picking the Vikings.
Well, I'm not going to pick this game, as is custom, but I will say this. The Vikings have the number 1 ranked run defense in the league by yards, and they are still top 2 or 3. I don't know about it because they only gave up 33 yards on the ground last week to the Titans. Arguably the best run defense in the league. Certainly one of the top 2 to 3 up there with Baltimore and Pittsburgh run defenses in the league. The Bears, the 11th worst rushing offense in the league. They also will go several games in a row where they just decide we're not going to run the ball at all. Now, I know DeAndre Swift had a really nice run last week against the Packers.
Shout out to Swift, former Eagle.
Shout out to Swift. But they have no run game to speak of whatsoever. Obviously, Caleb Williams can get out, roll around. He can run. You're going to get some rushing yards from him. But their run game leaves a lot to be desired, and you're going up against the top run defense in the league. So what does that mean? It means you're going to pass the ball a lot. And the worst performances that Caleb has had, the worst performances the Bears have come when Caleb Williams is passing the ball 35, 40, 45, 50 times. So that's not a recipe for success. The thing that sets the Bears up to have some success and to be able to control the flow a little bit, keep their defense off the field, this is the worst possible matchup in the league to take advantage of that. So why wouldn't they fall back on their old ways and just be passing the ball all over the place? Now, I know Caleb Williams has not had a lot of passing touchdowns. He has also not had a lot of interceptions recently, but he takes a lot of sacks. I believe he only had 3 last week, but he had 9 the week before. The Vikings defense gets after you. They get after you fast. Obviously, Brian Flores loves putting all these guys on the line of scrimmage on 3rd down, saying we might put 8 guys on the line and not blitz, but you don't know which 4 guys are coming. So there's going to be a lot for Caleb to have to process pre-snap to decide, how do I go about this play to get the ball out before the rushers get home? So I imagine there's going to be a good number of sacks for the Vikings defense against a bad Bears offensive line. But I will say this. The first time Brian Flores, that his defense with the Vikings was exposed in any way, was last year on Monday night against the Bears in Minnesota. The Bears barely did anything offensively all game, but late in the game, they discovered if you use a dagger route against some of these zone concepts where we're blitzing with a zone behind them, you can get large chunks of yardage, which then the Bengals did, the Lions did, and that became kind of the formula last year. Obviously, he's made tweaks this year. But to your point about the weapons, they still got DJ Moore. They still got Keenan Allen. They still got.
But are they strong enough against your defense, though?
I think they are against the. It's been a solid secondary, but it's a lot of older guys. Obviously, you got Hall of Famer Harrison Smith, Cam Beasley. Shouts out Beasley, has been playing unbelievable this year, as always. Very underrated player across the league. Josh Metellus, obviously another extremely underrated player. But you can move the ball through the air against this defense if you could pick up the blitz or if you could deliver the ball fast. So that's what it's going to come down to. Can Caleb Williams process the blitz fast enough to get the ball out, to move the ball with consistency against the Vikings? If he's dropping back and running for his life, he might make some plays on the ground. You might connect with a deep shot somewhere just from rolling around and making plays. But it's going to be tough for the Bears against this defense that has done well against everyone that's not a Super Bowl caliber play caller and quarterback. And that is not the case with the Bears. So the Vikings, I say this every week, the Vikings should win this game. But there is a path if they can protect Caleb and he can get the ball out quick enough and process quickly. There's a path for them to be able to move the ball and possibly control the flow a little bit. And you're just going to have to hope that Sam Darnold has a bad game. He had a nice bounce back game last week, but if you can get a few turnovers, Bears have a great defense. If you can get some turnovers and process and throw quickly for Caleb, there's a window here where they could win this game. But the Vikings should win this game.
I don't see that. And that's a very tight window, if I should say my friend. But yeah, okay, that's fine. You don't pick this game, so that's perfectly fine. I'm picking the Vikings. I don't think there's any chance the Bears are going to win this. I'm sorry.
All right, well, next up we got another. That was the second of our divisional matchups. We got another divisional matchup that on paper looks like a slaughter.
Yeah.
2-8 Tennessee Titans coming off a big loss to the Minnesota Vikings in a very weird game with a lot of really stupid penalties. Going to Houston, take on the 7-4 Texans, throttled the Cowboys on Monday night. I assume you're on the Texans here, but the floor is yours.
Obviously, Titans, I'm still waiting for that Will Levis meme to happen again since he came back. See, it still hasn't happened. But yeah, I'm picking the Texans who, pretty much destroyed the Cowboys last night as of recording. And there's no reason for me to believe that the Titans are able to beat the Texans. Now, like you said, there was a lot of weird stuff happening in that game against the Vikings. And Will Levis, he's just a meme of the season. That's what he is. And he might play well, he might not play well. Who knows? It's going to be a surprise. It's a hit or miss situation. But the Texans are doing good. They could be playing better. I think they have what it takes to play much better football. They have struggled a little bit. They have 4 losses. They started hot during the season. They have, faltered a couple of times. But I think this should be an easy win for the Texans. They're home, so, they run Texas. That's all I need to do.
I'm picking the Texans, but if you're the Titans, here's how I'd approach this. Will Levis, since he's come back, has been playing pretty solid, fairly efficient, not incredibly sloppy football. He's not turning the ball over a ton. He had 1 interception against the Vikings, but it was a late, we're down multiple scores. I'm trying to make something happen, bombing it deep. He gets picked off by the hitman. So it is what it is. You can't hold that against him as much as some other turnovers, especially some of his turnovers from earlier in the season. They were terrible running the football. So that is an issue that they need to figure out, because you got Tony Pollard, you got Tyjae Spears, who I like. So you got some pieces there. They've invested in the offensive line, Skoronski, J.C. Latham in the last couple years. But with the War Daddies up front, Tavondre Sweat, Jeffrey Simmons, they did an excellent job against the Vikings running game, which has been pretty damn good all year. If you can slow down Joe Mixon, if you can force Joe Mixon into, if not a bad game, not his best game, force CJ to pass, try and get some heat on the quarterback. You know, they don't have the most dynamic edge rushers in the game, but again, you got the guys in the middle that can get after you. And just get enough heat on CJ to maybe knock him back to pre-Cowboys CJ Stroud, where even if they were in games or winning games, he wasn't as sharp as he was last year. So I think that's their best shot. But you're going to want L'Jarius Sneed back. I believe he's missed 4 games in a row now, so it'd be nice to have him back. I don't know what his status is, but I think that's the key to victory for the Titans. I don't think they're going to get it done, but again, there's a formula in place that if you could just get the game going in your direction, they could pull off an upset. It's a divisional game. You got to throw the records out the window.
Yeah. Divisional games are always interesting and fun. I mean, we always say that, you know, they're to go out the window. So, you know, everything can happen in divisional games, definitely.
All right, next up we got the 9-1 Detroit Football Lions headed to Indianapolis to the Lad House to take on the 5-6 Colts. Go ahead.
I mean, good for the Colts. They bench Flacco. They got to win. Good for them. I was not expecting that, honestly. They got me. I picked the other team. But they're about to get mauled like zebras by the Lions at home. So there's no reason to bet against the Lions at this point in the season. They have been dominating every single team they face, whether good or bad, no matter what the record of the team is, they are dominating constantly, and it's a scary thing to see. There is no mercy whatsoever from Dan Campbell and these Lions. They're going to continue to bite off your kneecaps, and they're going to continue to ground you and pound you down into the dirt until they get as much points as possible. They don't care.
They don't care.
They're going to score. If they want to score 100 and they can, they will.
My favorite part of their game last week was they were up 49-6. They had scored a touchdown on their first 7 possessions of the game. They're deep in the fourth quarter, late in the fourth quarter. Again, up 49-6, and they kicked a 54-yard field goal. Like, there's just absolutely no regard for human life when it comes to Detroit football right now. And the Colts, they got a chance. Anthony Richardson coming off the benching looked good. An efficient 20 of 30. He was making plays on the ground. He didn't turn the ball all over the place.
That's a man trying to save his job as a starter. That's what it is.
But I don't know if you're pulling that off against the Lions. The Lions, other than the Texans game, the Bucks game, and the Vikings game, they have mauled everybody, and I see no reason why they're not going to maul the Colts. Lions, 100%.
Yeah, definitely Lions. It's a scary thing because both of our teams are in the NFC, so we know they're most likely going to get that number 1 seed in the playoffs. I mean, it's almost a fact. I mean, they have the best record in the NFC. They have the same record as the Chiefs on the other side of the conference, in the AFC. It's going to be tough to beat them, especially at home, if they get the number 1 seed.
Oh, yeah, that place can be real loud.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, next up, another one of these dumpster fire divisional matchups.
Ooh, I'm excited about this one.
The 3-8 New England Patriots, Frisky Pats, headed down to South Beach to Miami to take on the 4-6 Dolphins on a 2-game win streak, clawing their way back into it. They've officially jumped everybody's favorite Cincinnati Bengals in the standings. Who you got in this one?
Listen, they're back. The Frisky Patriots are back. And I'm going all in. I am putting all my chips down. I'm going all in on the Frisky Patriots. I don't care. Drake May is going to have a hell of a game against the Dolphins. The Dolphins, yeah, they're playing well. They're back. Tua's back. They have all their weapons. That's great. That's good for them. They're trying to be healthier. That's great. I'm glad for them. But man, I'm picking the Pats. I'm going with the frisky Pats. And even if I come back next week and I'm saying I was wrong, I don't care. I'm betting everything on the Pats this week.
I'm on the Dolphins, and here's why. I went through the game chart for their game this past Sunday, and I talked about this on the Monday show. A lot of long drives. They had two 17-play drives, a 14-play drive, a 10-play drive. And when we think of Miami, you think of Mike McDaniel and Tyreek Hill, like explosives, how they can hit you with an 80-yard bomb at any time, and they're pulling off all this crazy stuff. But with Tua, with the accuracy that he has and the lack of pieces on defense, if they can keep grinding out these long drives and control the clock and keep not just keep the defense off the field so they're not tired, but keep the defense off the field so there's less opportunity for them to fuck it up, I think that's a recipe for success for Miami. I don't like the Broncos are looking good right now, so I don't know that Miami can get that 7th spot, but they're certainly in the mix, especially if they win this game. It's at home. New England, historically, even under the great Bill Belichick, has been terrible in Miami. Obviously, it's a new regime. It's a new coaching staff, new team, new quarterback, all that stuff. Drake May has played well. He's in clutch spots. We've seen him make a play, and we've seen him make a couple bad plays. But I think Miami is going to edge this out. I think it'll be close, but I think Miami's going to pull this off.
That's fine. They're at home, and that stadium is specifically designed to cause havoc to the opposing visiting team. With all the temperature that because of the way the stadium is designed, the sun is always on the bench of the opponent. So they have that advantage. But I don't know, man. Like I said, at the start of the season, I was very, very high on the frisky Pats, and a couple of weeks ago, they just getting frisky again, and I'm just loving it. So I'm back on the frisky Pats train. I'm back on that train. I don't know why. Call me crazy. Call me insane. I don't know. I'm back on the frisky Pats.
I going back to something I said months ago. I feel like if the Patriots had won every game that you've picked them to win, they might be in the wild card right now. So we'll see. But they're 3-8. But they're in these games. They're playing competitive games now. So you got to give the Pats their due. There's other teams around their same record that I would not feel nearly as confident about as the Pats. But I'm not confident in the Pats, so I'm going with the Dolphins.
They're still in the race. They're still in the race.
No, not really. But moving on, the 4-6 Tampa Bay Buccaneers, coming off a bye, I believe, traveling to the Meadowlands to take on the New York Football Giants of New Jersey at 2-8, starting Tommy DeVito with Drew Lock as the backup. Daniel Jones is in bubble wrap. The injury guarantees have hit. They can't afford him getting hurt, so he is done for his career as a New York Football Giant of New Jersey. Who you like, Tampa Bay or the Giants with the return of Tommy Cutlets?
Listen, I've been asking for Tommy Cutlets to return since the season started, so I'm really happy about that. Yet, I don't think they're going to be able to beat the Buccaneers, so I'm picking the Buccaneers. It's going to be a fun game, though, because Tommy Cutlets is going to be back and he's going to bring much-needed life to the fan base of the New York City Giants of New Jersey. But I do not think they're going to be able to beat the Buccaneers. I mean, they do, man. Tony Cutlets better eat some parmesan or whatever they call it. Eggplant parmesan, is that what they call it? I don't fucking know. I'm not Italian. I love Italian food, but I don't know shit about Italian food.
Eggplant parmesan.
Yeah, paisano.
I think for him, you get a little parmesan, some chicken cutlets, but what's interesting about this game is on paper, I'm Bucks all the way because I for weeks, Baker without the weapons has willed that team to be in it at the very end of every game, and that this is an opponent where that if he plays with that intensity, they should be up by 1 or 2 scores at the end of the game, and they should win the game. But you have the Tommy Cutlets juju. Can he provide a spark in New Jersey in front of all the paisanos? Maybe that's the one hope I think that they have, is that the marinara is flowing like wine out there in the Meadowlands, and it's just too much. Baker gets a little marinara in his eyes. He can't see. He can't bake. Turns the heat up too much. Burns the whatever he's cooking in the oven. But I'm picking the Bucks. I can't pick against my boy Baker. There's optimism. Mike Evans is going to be back this week. I still think the Bucks are in a really good position. You look at their schedule to win 10 games, and the way the Falcons are going right now, despite having the 2 losses against the Falcons, which is key, the Bucks are not out of it. And I think they know that. They've had 2 weeks to prepare for a bad team, making a quarterback change. Despite the Paisano energy and just the copious amount of cutlets that are going to be flying around North Jersey, I'm picking the Bucks.
Think about that crowd once Tony DeVito's manager enters the stadium and just sits in the stand with Tony's family. They're going to go nuts. That team needs Tony Cutlets more than they need wins, all right? They need a new quarterback, and they don't care if Tony DeVito loses games for them. They just want to see him ball. And here's my prediction. Because of Tony DeVito, even though I don't think they're going to win the game, the New York Giants are going to score 2 passing touchdowns in that game.
You know what's going to happen? There's going to be a point this season where Tommy Cutlets does what he does, but at least in talking to my friend Co, our friend Co, who is a big New York Giants fan.
That's for Saquon, Co.
He hates the idea of Tommy Cutlets coming in because he could just smell that this kid is going to win a game or two and fuck up their shot to get one of the top quarterbacks. Or in his opinion, he wants Travis Hunter and then to trade back up from the second round into the first round for one of the quarterbacks. But we might see a Tommy Cutlets heel turn in front of the New York fans at some point this season where they know they need a quarterback. Fuck it, just lose the rest of these games. We're over the Tommy Cutlets thing. We love you, but like just make it entertaining and lose late. He might have a heel turn with those fans later on this year. That's my prediction.
The Marinara is too good. All right, it's too good for the fans. They're gonna be eating that up, and they're gonna forget about the quarterback, and they're gonna remember once the season is over. Trust me.
Yeah, that's how it goes. We'll stay
so in Bucks. All right,
I'm going Bucks.
Yeah.
We're gonna stay in the NFC East. Another bad divisional matchup. The now officially worst vibes team in football, the Dallas Cowboys at 3-7, coming off a drubbing. It was so bad the roof was falling apart on Monday night.
Cheeks.
Yes, double cheeked up like Mike Tyson. Headed to Washington to take on arch rival Commanders, coming off a huge loss to your Eagles last Thursday night, but they're at 7-4. Dallas, Washington, who you got?
I got the Commanders. I got the bounce back. Like you said, it's the worst vibes in football. The Cowboys are literally falling apart. Like you said, the stadium had a sheet of metal that almost killed someone before the game started. And then another piece of metal hanging, almost falling on more people that had to be secured before the game started. And not only that, but the whole offense is crumbling down to the London Bridge, man. Do you see that double fumble on the same play? How does that even happen? How? I'm sorry, Cowboys. I know I'm an Eagles fan. I know I don't care and Dallas sucks. But, man, your organization has jumped the shark. There is no way the Cowboys are beating the Commanders. Zero chance in hell that they're beating the Commanders. Commanders all the way. Fuck them, though. Both of them.
The Cowboys are going to win this game, and here's why.
Oh, God.
I thought they bottomed out against the Eagles, and that still probably was a bottoming out. But they came back, had a terrible game against the Texans. Another just you watch it, and it feels like you're watching a comedy. You're not watching a football game. You're watching a comedy movie about the worst football team in America. But they're going to beat Washington. Here's why. I don't know why, but I can feel it. The The Cowboys are going to find a way to win this game. Washington, they're going to dip a little bit here, and then they're going to bounce back, maybe make the playoffs. But the efficiency of Jaden Daniels hasn't been there as much the last couple weeks. I think the Cowboys have the pieces. They're on the road, which for every other team is not a good thing. For the Cowboys, you get the fuck out of AT&T Stadium. I don't care where you're playing. It's
that
a good
stadium
thing.
is cursed. That stadium has to be cursed.
I think the stat is their last 6 games at home, they've trailed by at least 20 points, and it's an NFL record. Awful. Yep. Just awful. But they're not in Dallas. They're not in AT&T Stadium. Dallas is going to find a way. I have no stats to back this up. I have no football talk to back this up. But God damn it, I'm on the Cowboys, and I'm chasing because I threw $4.68 on them to beat the Texans at like plus 350 because I was like, fuck it. Let's get a little action on a Monday night while I watch Raw instead of this garbage. And I'm not going to bet on them. But Dallas is going to go to 4-7. They're going to beat the Commanders.
So what you're telling me is that the NFL is scripted and has scripted the Dallas Cowboys season as a Greek comedy where the fool gets the comeuppance.
Yeah, something like that.
Oh, come on. You do you, but I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think the Cowboys have any.
Come on, Dallas. This game. Cooper Rush is better than this. You're better than this. You got pieces. You got players. Mike Zimmer knows how to coach a defense.
Eternally.
It doesn't matter. You can do better than this. They're worse teams.
Each other. They're fighting on the sidelines.
The Panthers were falling apart at the seams. They won 2 in a row. The Saints were the worst vibes team in football. They won 2 in a row. The Cowboys have it in them to win another football game this season, and this is the game in Washington. Just to stick it to the Commanders because they hate them so much.
I agree to disagree, but let's move on.
All right. Now we're in the 1 o'clock slate, the afternoon slate, the 4 p.m. slate for the East Coast biased people.
5 p.m. in Puerto Rico.
5 p.m. in Puerto Rico. The 6-5, my Denver Broncos. My Denver Broncos. I told you they were going to beat the Falcons, and lo and behold, I believe, baby. Rookie of the year, Bo Nix coming in hot. Headed to Vegas to play the 2-8 Raiders, who still suck.
I mean, I hate Sean Payton so much. I hate that he's winning games. But, man, the Broncos are playing well. Bo Nix is in the conversation for, offensive rookie of the year.
Gotta be.
So, yeah, I'm going Broncos. Like you said, the Raiders, they suck. Max Crosby is not enough in defense. They are struggling offensively. They don't have anything going for them. They have no rhythm. They have no momentum. They lack an entire identity to that team. They're just rebuilding. So, there's no chance, like I said before with the picks, that the Raiders are winning this game. So I'm going with the Broncos. I'm going with Bo Nix. I believe, baby. I believe.
All right, I want everyone across America right now. And you know what? Everyone around the world, any potential aliens watching in from a satellite in outer space,
God,
we're all going to say it together. Broncos country. Let's ride. 7-5. My Denver Broncos are going to 7-5. They're going to beat the Raiders. I think the best way to phrase it is exactly what you said. There's no rhythm with the Raiders. It's not like they're like embarrassing the way the Saints were for a few weeks, or the Panthers have been, or the Cowboys have been. Like it's kind of just they're just quietly not very good, and they can't put together full games to win a football game. They're not awful, but they're pretty fucking bad. And the Broncos right now are playing really good football. Ever since they got the shit kicked out of them by the Ravens, they've been playing great football. They should have beat the Chiefs. They come out, they get a huge win against the Falcons. Stoned them. Just bodied the Falcons like it was nothing, to the point Kirk Cousins getting pulled out of the game because it's not a game anymore. So the defense is back humming after that Ravens loss. Bo Nix has to be in the conversation for Offensive Rookie of the Year. Jaden Daniels, like I said, the efficiency is starting to come down a little bit. He's still playing solid ball. I like how they're handling him, but he's not putting up these, like, for the way people talk about Jaden Daniels, you'd think he's putting up these, like, really, like, wow stats, and he's not. And that's not bad. It doesn't mean that he's not playing good, but there's nothing there that's, like, shocking you, like, holy shit, this is one of the best rookie seasons of all time for a quarterback. Brock Bowers with the Raiders quietly having an excellent rookie season, but are they going to give it to a tight end on a really bad team? I don't know. So if Bo Nix keeps doing what he's doing, he might be the Rookie of the Year. He might be the Rookie of the Year, and the Broncos are going to hold firm, maintain that hold they got on that last wild card spot ahead of all these dumpster fire teams that want to act like they're all, the Cincinnati Bengals. Tirico and Collinsworth and everybody at Sunday Night Football in America, they could not be more obvious in how bad they wanted the Cincinnati Bengals to win that game so they could keep trying to shove them down our throats. We don't want the Bengals. The Bengals stink. They stink at football, and I don't want to hear about it. You know who doesn't stink at football? The Denver Broncos. My Denver Broncos. Broncos country. Let's ride.
Listen, it's not how you start the race, it's how you finish it. And Bo Nix is looking to finish the race extremely strong. So if he keeps doing what he's doing right now, if the coaching keeps doing what they're doing right now, if the entire system of the Denver Broncos continues to do what they're doing right now, I think they're going to finish strong, and Bo Nix is definitely going to win that. So, yeah, I'm picking the Broncos as well. I'm going with them. So, let's see if we ride into the sunset.
Picture a world where the Chiefs, they lose another game. Buffalo, they don't lose another game. Buffalo gets the number 1 seed. Everyone's running through Orchard Park. If they want to get to the Super Bowl, they got to go through Buffalo. They got to go through Western New York. They got to go through the Mafia. That puts the Chiefs at the 2 seed. Everything in the wild card holds serve as it is now, which means in the first round on Super Wild Card weekend, we get the Denver Broncos back in Kansas City to finish what they started, to finish what was taken from us, what was taken from me. There's a chance this happens. It's not out of the realm of possibility. It might not even be out of the realm of probability. And if that happens, Kansas City and Patrick Mahomes, you better get ready. Because Broncos country, we're riding it with the cowboy hats. We're riding in, baby. Broncos all day.
Riding and stomping on those creeping hopes, I see.
Let's ride. All right, next up. This should be a good game. 5-5, San Francisco 49ers. 7-3, Green Bay Packers. The frozen tundra of Lambeau Field. On a Sunday afternoon, who you like in this one?
I'm not liking the team that plays in sunny California against, the Green Bay Packers at home in the middle of November. I'm going with the Packers. I think the 49ers are struggling to find a rhythm. They lost to the Seahawks this past weekend. They barely beat the Buccaneers 2 weeks ago. I think the Packers are still one of the contenders in the playoffs. They're really strong. They're doing what they're doing. They had struggled a couple of times, but they're back playing excellent football. So I'm going with the Packers. I think they are going to be the 49ers, definitely.
You're definitely wrong because the San Francisco 49ers, they're going to Lambeau Field and they're coming out with a dub. They're going to 6-5. And this is not my hatred of the Green Bay Packers talking. This is historically speaking.
Sure. Okay.
Whenever you have coaches that come from each other's trees or whatever, there's always an interesting kind of dynamic. It feels like either the master always beats the apprentice, or like McVay always gives Kyle Shanahan the business. Kyle Shanahan always beats Matt LaFleur. And with Packers quarterback specifically, it's the Cowboys and the 49ers. You either beat the Cowboys, lose to the 49ers, or you lose to the Cowboys, beat the 49ers. Jordan Love, he beats the Cowboys, and he loses to the 49ers. All signs point to San Francisco wins. They're going to bounce back. Listen, last week, Seattle, it's a divisional matchup. You got to throw the records out the window. Got to throw the records out the window. Anything can happen. And I said this on the Monday show. If I knew that Cornrow Gino was starting that game, I would have never put the Niners in my teaser on Sunday. Would have never happened. Because
They're riddled of injuries. Nick Bosa might not even play.
Okay, but Jordan Love leads the league in interceptions. He's thrown an interception in every game that he's played thus far this season. They barely edged out a game against the Bears. Granted, it was in Chicago, but they've beat Chicago 11 straight times. They needed a miraculous catch that maybe might have not been a catch, might have hit the ground. I thought it was a catch, so I'm not trying to make excuses. But they needed, like the Chiefs, they needed a blocked field goal on a miracle to win a game against a team that is decidedly worse than them. San Francisco, they know what time it is. Seattle, again, it's a divisional matchup. It's a tough game. This is a tough game. It's a tougher environment to play in, but they need this win. They can't fall back under 500. They know they're close. They're so close right now. They're a game back in the division. They're a game. This you win this game. The Packers are in the wild card. Let's say you lose the division. This gives you a leg up on the Packers in the wild card race. The Niners know what time it is. They know they need to win this game. Kyle Shanahan has LaFleur's number. He knows what he's going to do. He knows what to tell his defensive coordinator, how to approach it, because he knows how LaFleur is going to run his system. Jordan Love beats the Cowboys, loses to the 49ers. He's going to lose to the 49ers on Sunday. San Francisco in a close game. Maybe some shenanigans, maybe some Shanahanigans, but the Niners are going to win.
Listen, this is like the movie with the Water Boy, all right? I don't know what they call it, the Mud Bowl, whatever it was. You're telling me that there's no chance in hell, there's not a
Bourbon Bowl.
possibility. The Bourbon Bowl, that's what it was. And there were the Mud Dogs
Yeah.
in the Bourbon Bowl. Yes, thank you. You're telling me there's not a possibility that Matt LaFleur can come up with some new plays that can, take advantage of the fact that the 49ers are not a 100% this season, that they have one of the worst cases of Super Bowl hangover.
Is Fred Warner playing? Tell me that. Is Fred Warner playing the game?
I'm not sure. You can check it out.
Yes, he is. And you know
He
what
is?
that means?
All right.
I don't care who's injured. Fred Warner's playing. That's like when if Ray Lewis is playing, I don't care about T. Sizzle, Ed Reed, Haloti Nada, none of those boys. If Ray
Did he
Lewis
play
is
last
playing,
week?
Who?
Fred Warner.
Yeah, he played last week.
They lost.
It's a divisional game. You got to throw the records out the window.
It doesn't matter.
I'm not saying. Listen, I'm not going to be
worst
surprised if the Packers win. I'm not going to be surprised if the Packers win. The Packers are a good football team, but the Niners, they know how to beat the Packers. He knows how to beat LaFleur. I've done nothing but praise LaFleur this season, top to bottom, because he's done an excellent job. But unless we get peak Malik Willis in this game, I'm picking the Niners.
You're insane.
You act like it's like this ridiculous notion that the Niners could beat the Packers.
They have not played well this entire season. That's why they're 5-5.
Have the Packers played well?
They're 7-3.
It's circumstantial. You gotta look at the details, the nuance. They've lost close games against good teams. The Packers have won close games against bad teams and gotten their shit kicked in by the Detroit Lions.
Listen, the only stats that mattered, and I've told you this before when we started doing the show,
Wins and
losses. That's the only stats that matter. All right?
You're right.
Look at the Bengals. Look at the numbers Joe Burrow and Chase are putting up together in that offense. Does that matter? No. They're losing the games. I don't care who's playing in the 49ers. They're not playing well. I don't care. They're losing that game.
It's not that they're not playing well. They're not playing as well as we expect from the 49ers. They're playing well. Just like the Packers are playing well. But if you watch the Packers week to week, and listen, Packers fans out there, you let me know if I'm crazy. But I feel like if you're a Packers fan, you're excited. Like me as a Vikings fan, they're 8-2, but I watch the games and I'm like, I feel like we could play better than this. I've seen us play better than this. That's how I feel about the Packers. Same thing with the Niners, which leads me to believe it's going to be a close game. And to me, the edge is Shanahan just knows how to deal with a LaFleur offense, and he knows how to give that information to the defense. And Jordan Love turns the ball over. He throws an interception in every single game. He leads the league in interceptions. That could be the factor that changes the game. You throw a back-breaking pick. The Niners, if they're in the position, they're not going to crumble the way that the Chicago Bears crumbled. They might miss a kick, but they're not going to miss a clutch kick at the end of the game. I believe in Jake Moody in the clutch.
Listen,
I agree. In the first 3 quarters.
I agree with what you said about this is going to be a close game. This is definitely going to be a close game. And the fact that we have taken so much time talking about this game means that it's going to be the game of the afternoon. That's the game we should watch out for. So let's agree to disagree because I don't think the 49ers are winning this game at all.
Bang, bang, no Niner doubts. Gang.
Screw that. You know, I don't know what the Packers say. Go, Pack, go. Is that what they say?
Yeah.
Stupid. Sorry,
bang, bang.
Chiefs heads, you dumbasses. Anyways, yeah, let's move on because we're not going to agree on this game. I'm sorry, we're not.
We'll stay in the NFC West. The one good divisional matchup of the weekend, the 6-4 division leading Arizona Cardinals, I believe, coming off a bye, traveling to Seattle. Maybe the 12s are back. I don't know. Maybe they heard me talking shit and they said we got to pack the stadium. But the 5-5 Seattle Seahawks hosting 6-4 Cardinals. Don't look now. But the inept, damn near dead Seahawks at 5-5, if they win this game and your Green Bay Packers beat San Francisco and your Philadelphia Eagles beat the Los Angeles Rams, do not look now. The Seattle Seahawks will be first in the division. Who you like here?
Listen, I fucking hate the Seahawks. They have fucked me week after week after week. I pick them, they lose. I pick against them and they win. So I cannot stand them. With that said, I liking the friskiness of the Cardinals this season and the way they're playing. So I'll go with the Cardinals.
I figured as much, which is why I am prepared to take Cornrow Gino, baby. Get him tightened up, get it twisted up.
Cornrow Gino. A couple
weeks ago,
you're going to say he's cooked. You were saying he's done. And now he's
because he ain't had the cornrows.
Oh, so now
what are we talking about?
Oh, he's like Samson. The way he styles his hair, it gives him better football skills. What the fuck is that?
Yeah. No. See, you don't understand. It's like Randy Moss had the cornrows. He was the super freak. But if you came out in a game and he didn't have the cornrows in, you knew he was going for 250. When I see Geno Smith with cornrows, I know what's going to happen. And what's going to happen is the Seattle Seahawks win. But also, here's why the Seahawks are going to win, because that means the Cardinals lose, which means they need a bounce back because they're now no longer on top of the division. Who they play next week? The Minnesota Vikings, and that's going to make me sweat all week. So that's why the Seahawks are going to win, because then I'm going to have to sweat extra the Cardinals. If the Cardinals go to 7-4, I feel like, are the Cardinals really ready to be a 7-4 team right now? I don't know. We'll probably win. But if they're coming in 6-5, all bets are off. Cornrow Gino, I know you. I see you, baby. I see you.
The Cardinals have been this team that for some reason they always get, look past them. Like people just don't pay attention to them, and somehow they beat good teams every once in a while. Last season they beat the Cowboys, who were hot, and they won the division, the NFC East. They beat the Eagles when they were trying to win games at the end of the season. They were one of the teams that beat them during that 11-1, whatever. I don't even want to think about it because I'm frustrated just thinking about it. But just keep an eye out for the Cardinals. They're doing some frisky things, and they are doing it well. And it's not the first time. They started last season, and they are continuing to do so this season. So just keep an eye out for the Cardinals. Do not look past them.
Listen, I got futures bets on the Cardinals to win 6.5, over 6.5 games, over 7.5 games, over 8.5 games, and over 9.5 games. I am all in on the Cardinals, and I have been since before the season started. This is not about the Cardinals. This is about the Vikings. Everything's about the Vikings, Cesar. This is about the Vikings and why if Seattle wins, the Cardinals will be in need of the bounce back, and then I got to sweat it all week. That's why. I think the Cardinals are a better team than Seattle, but it's a tightly contested division. You look around this division, it feels like everybody's going to split, and then like one team is going to win 4 out of 6 games, and that's what's going to propel them to win the division. And maybe that's the Cardinals, but I'm picking Seattle because Cornrow Gino. Cornrow Gino, baby. You got to love Cornrow Gino. did not write back, and he will continue to not write back on Sunday against Arizona.
At the risk of sounding extremely...
They wrote him off, Cesar, but he didn't write back, God damn it.
Listen.
Cornrow Gino.
At the risk of sounding subjective and not objective at all, can every NFC team just lose this week? Is that possible?
No.
God damn. Well, I mean, every NFC team that's not the Vikings and the Eagles, I mean.
No. Tampa and the Giants played Dallas and Washington.
Cardinals and Seahawks. You know, I know.
Yeah. So.
No. But whatever keeps our chances.
Packers, Green Bay Bay and San Francisco.
Whatever keeps our hopes of staying in the fucking playoffs, I'm good. All right, I'm fine. I'm going for the one seed, though.
I think there's only one cross-conference game this week. Actually, Kansas City and Carolina. Everything else is AFC, or no, Detroit and Indianapolis. So there's only two cross-conference games. Everything else is intra-conference. Speaking of intra-conference, Sunday Night Football, your 8-2 Philadelphia Eagles headed out here to sunny Los Angeles to play in SoFi Stadium, a glorious palatial estate. For the 5-5 Los Angeles Rams, I assume at least 55% of the crowd will be wearing Eagles green.
Yeah. The Bird Gang is going to invade Los Angeles, so get ready for that, because there's a lot of Philadelphia Eagles fans in the West Coast. They just, you don't see them often because they don't want to be identified.
No, you hear them, though. Trust me.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Listen, I'm not sure how the Rams are doing this season. I have not been able to pay as much attention and close attention to them, so I can't really speak on what they're doing well or on what they're doing on what they're not doing well. With that said, I'm picking the Eagles, not because they're my team, but because our defense has been superb. And I don't think, since they haven't been making that much noise, that the Rams offense can withstand that defense. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. Please pull out the numbers if you need to. Just let me know. But I'm picking the Eagles because our defense is going to be better than their offense.
Well, I'm correcting you because you're wrong, because Matt Stafford threw for 4 touchdowns and no interceptions last week.
Oh, but they don't. Who did they play?
Your Frisky Pats.
Yeah.
If, according to you, would be like 7-4 right now.
Yeah, but the Pats don't have the exciting whites on defense. The Pats don't have the warden of Guantanamo Bay on defense. The Pats don't have Zach Bond. They don't have Jalen Carter. They don't have Nakobe Dean.
What?
Our defense is fucking stacked, all right?
Hey, I'm not denying it, but the Patriots defense has played quite well this season.
But they're not top. They're not the first. They're not the top defense.
No, they're not. But
we are.
Are you?
Yeah, check that out.
I feel like Pittsburgh is.
We're the first passing defense, I believe, and the first defense overall.
According to what, yards? Yards doesn't mean it. Yards is a skewed stat. What's the EPA, Cesar? What's the DVOA? Where's the real men's stats? And by real men, I mean those penciled necks that called us frauds 2 years ago. But regardless, I'm not going to argue that the Eagles have a fantastic defense, but the Rams, they got Matt Stafford, Sean McVay.
Stafford's great. He's nuts.
Combination.
Stafford's one.
They got Puka Nacua. You got Cooper Kupp. You got Kyron Williams. They got weapons. This is not some moribund offense that's going to get trampled over. It's going to be a good matchup. It's in LA, which means absolutely fucking nothing. But I'm going to pick the Rams because it's bad for the Vikings, and I hope the Eagles win. But if the Rams win, not good for my Vikings. And so that's why they're probably going to win. Now I have no logic beyond that. I think it should be a good game. If the Eagles come out and play like they did for the first 3 quarters against the Commanders, the Rams are going to beat them. They can't do that. They need to be more consistent on offense, and they need to be better in the first quarter. Because a Rams team like this, they got the weapons to jump out on you, get out. You're 14-0, and the Eagles could still close the gap because they got even better weapons, but you don't want to be coming from behind against a team that has firepower like the Rams, and they have sputtered at times throughout the season from what I've watched. But if you're the Eagles, you want to score your points spread out. Don't score 3 touchdowns in the fourth quarter after you've been fucking getting dragged around all game by your defense. But they got a great defense. The Eagles are a better team. They got a better team on paper. They're playing better. The Rams have been very back and forth every time. Oh, they're back to 500. Oh, they won a couple games in a row. Then they lose one. Then they win one. Then they lose one. So they lost one. Now I think they're going to win one because it's bad for my Vikings. But I'm rooting for the Eagles. This is the Haley's Comet of me rooting for Philadelphia, and it's happening this weekend on Sunday Night Football.
We'll see, and I'll probably fall asleep and then wake up. And once I wake up, I'll probably see that the score is in our favor, and they'll probably be ending because I've been falling asleep on Sunday Night Football, not because the games are bad or good, but because it's extremely late here in Puerto Rico. But yeah, I'm all in the Eagles. Go Birds.
Should be a good game. It's always good to have a good primetime game, not this Pittsburgh-Cleveland trash that Al Michaels is going to be drinking his scotch through for 3 hours on Thursday. But another good primetime game, Monday Night Football, the Harbaugh Bowl. Baltimore Ravens coming off a tough loss at 7-4, taking on Jim Harbaugh and the surging Los Angeles Chargers at 7-3, now ahead of Baltimore in the wild card standings. Who you got?
Listen, I am going with the Chargers still because I still think I'm a defense guy. All right, you know me. I love sharing, like defensive line and defensive plays with you on Instagram and social media. I'm liking what I'm seeing from the defense in the Chargers end. Yeah, they struggled last week, but man, the Ravens, they can make all the plays they want. I think the Chargers are going to be with this game, and they're just going to make the Ravens stumble a little bit before they finish the season strong.
I'm taking Baltimore on the bounce back, and here's why. The Chargers are going to Charger, the Ravens are going to Raven, but Ravens Ravening is canceled out by Chargers Chargering. We argued about this a little bit. The Chargers Bengals, the end of that game was atrocious football. I know it was entertaining television, but it was atrocious football. Nobody was doing anything with it was like both teams were like, no, you go win it. No, you go win it. No, you go win it. And the Chargers still haven't beaten anybody. Oh, they beat the Bengals. Guess what? The Bengals suck. The Bengals got the same record as the Saints. If someone beat the Saints, you sitting here saying, oh, well, they beat the Saints. No.
Hey, the Eagles beat them both.
Well, good for them, but the Eagles finally went out and beat a Commanders team that's 7-4 and has something to show for themselves. The Chargers have not beaten anyone. And again, I'm a Jim Harbaugh guy. I will love the man forever. He groomed and grew my godson, J.J. McCarthy. I love Jim Harbaugh. I'm rooting for the Chargers. I love the Chargers, but there's still this tendency to Charger. The Ravens still got the tendency to Raven. But the Ravens, they know they can't lose to the Chargers. Now they're really falling back. Lamar had his worst game of the season by far. He always plays bad against the Steelers. Hasn't beaten the Steelers in 5 years. They're going to bounce back. Justin Herbert is supremely talented. He's a supremely talented quarterback. But he's sailing balls late that are not that they're gimmies, but you got to make these throws. It's the little things. It's in the margins where I still don't see it from Justin Herbert that we've seen it from Lamar in the past. When the Ravens don't get it done, it's because it's Ravens juju that they're going to fuck shit up in the fourth quarter. But we saw last week with the Bengals, the Chargers do the same shit, except they're better at it. They're better at fucking it up in the end because they've been doing it for longer. So I'm on the Ravens. I think they know who they are a little bit more. They've been together more. They have more experience as a unit. They have more weapons. They have better weapons. I think they have better pieces on defense holistically. It's just Harbaugh and Jesse Minter have really been pulling it out of their guys. Don't get me wrong. The Chargers defense, one of the best in the league. But the Chargers defense has not had to deal with Lamar Jackson and King Henry coming out of the backfield. King
So
Henry barely got any touches last week. They're going to come back to the table and say, we got to run this man 30 fucking times down
so
their
basically,
throats.
so basically, what you're saying is that this is the first test for the Chargers.
It's not the first test, but it's their first chance to win a test, to pass the test.
I'm going to take that chance. I'm still sticking with the Chargers. I'm not changing my mind, but I do agree and understand every single point that you've made about the Ravens, especially that last one about Derrick Henry.
The Chargers are punching a little bit above their weight class right now because they've had an easy enough schedule to compile the wins, whereas the Ravens are a team we expect to be there in the final 8, final 4 teams in the league year after year. They have the expectations, and they haven't done enough to dissuade me from feeling like they're going to be in there. It's just, to me, it always comes down to, in the playoffs, how are they going to fuck it up in the fourth quarter? And we in the playoffs. So
I root
Ravens.
for Philly. I love a great underdog story, okay? So I'm going to stick with the Chargers. I think they have what it takes. I think they're going to be able to get it done. I think they're just going to continue to do what they're doing, which is constantly improving. So that's what I'm going to. I think the Chargers are just going to continue to constantly improve and just going back up a little bit, step by step. Even though it's a slow, movement, I think they're going to be going higher and higher and getting better and better every week. So
it wouldn't shock me. The Chargers absolutely have what it takes to beat the Ravens, and at some point they're going to beat a good team. Whether even if it doesn't happen this year and it happens next year, like at some point they're going to keep rising under Jim Harbaugh, but. I got faith in the Ravens have bounced back this year. Whenever they've been really like slugged down and out, they find a way to get back in. And they were 0-2, remember?
Hopefully they don't lose a week before we face it.
Yeah, well, we'll see. Well, that's the slate.
Do you notice the trend from the last 2 games?
What's the trend?
2 LA games against Birds.
Oh, yeah. It is weird that back-to-back nights on primetime, SoFi Stadium's hosting a game in which the other team's fans will be the predominant members of society to show up for said game.
Los Angeles does not deserve any football franchise. We've said it before. I'll say it again.
Now, all right, who would win would it an Eagle? I think an Eagle would beat a Ram in a fight because it's got you could just fly in and claw at it. Like how's the Ram gonna ram an Eagle unless the Eagle's a fucking idiot? Whereas a lightning bolt could just hit a Raven and fucking kill it dead on the spot. So
I mean,
maybe that's how it goes.
Yeah, maybe. We'll
I'm not switching my pick, but if the Chargers win, I'm coming back to that next week.
All right, so we talk about the teams on bye.
Yes.
All right, which teams are on bye? We have the Falcons, the Bills.
They need it.
The Bengals, the Jaguars, the Saints, and the Jets. The Falcons need to bye because they just come up from a really devastating loss. They got to regroup, so good for them. The Bills, they don't need it, but it's good for them. They're just coming up with the biggest win of the season. They can just rest, take some time off, and then get back to work. So
they don't have to deal with that emotional hangover and a hard-earned win or a hard-fought loss where it kind of fucks with you the following week. They get a bye week to let the emotions subside and just get back to work.
For that reason and that reason only, I think it's beneficial for them. The Bengals, they need it. They need to figure something out with that defense. Their offense, like we said, they're playing really well, but that defense is costing them the games.
The only thing the Bengals need is for these Muppets in the media to recognize your bias and do what I've been doing for a month and a half now, which is being honest about the fact that the Bengals are not a good football team. They are not going to be a good football team. They're not going to make the playoffs. They're not contenders, and we don't need to keep talking about them just because we love Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase. They're doing great things. Give them credit for that, but let's stop trying to pretend that this is a real football team. Their coach is a bozo and needs to get out of here, and Jamar Chase knows it. Jamar Chase and I don't get along, but I am with him 100% on his veiled criticisms of the head coaching because Zach Taylor is a fucking bozo. And listen, the defense, I love Lou Anarumo, but they just don't have the pieces. They're paying all these other guys. They're paying Joe Burrow. They got to pay Jamar. They got to pay T. They just don't got the pieces. As soon as Jesse Bates left before last year, That was the signal. And yes, Trey Hendrickson leads the league in sacks, as Mike Tirico told us 15 times. Because Trey Hendrickson leads the league in sacks. Like, they may be a terrible defense, but Trey Hendrickson leads the league in sacks. I don't care. They lose games. They're not good. Let's stop talking about them, even though I'm sitting up here talking about them. But it doesn't matter if they get a bye, because guess what? They're not going to win enough games to be relevant anyway. So get them out of here.
Next team, it's the Jaguars. Another team that needs a bye, not because they're going to benefit them to win the next game, but because they just need to figure out what the hell they're going to do to rebuild this team for next season. Whether it is a new coach, whether it is new players, whether it is new GM, whether the Kansas decide to sell the whole franchise altogether to London, I don't care. Whatever it is, they need to figure it out. So I think this bye week is beneficial.
The Jags need a bye week to set up the funeral services for how they were brutally murdered on national television last week. That's it.
They were so badly stumped that they're going to send the franchise over to London to be the first London NFL team. And then the next team is the Saints. I don't think it's beneficial to them. They have a 2-winning streak. They have been winning 2 games in a row. I think they're doing well. I think, like I said, whenever a team goes on by with a winning streak, it just derails their momentum. So I don't think that's beneficial to them. And the Jets. The Jets. 3-8. Nothing at this point in their season is beneficial to the Jets. So this bye can do nothing to fix that team. They just fired their GM on their bye week. They are not doing anything whatsoever with this bye week that would benefit the team. So, yeah, not beneficial for them.
I want to talk on that real quick because I was going to get into it on another show this week, but you brought it up, so I'll get into it now. Why the fuck did they fire their GM? What did the GM do? The GM built a fucking roster full of great defensive talent. The GM went and got a Hall of Fame quarterback. The GM went and got a Hall of Fame wide receiver. The GM drafted a young stud wide receiver who might get to that level by the time all is said and done in Garrett Wilson. He drafted a stud running back. Yes, the offensive line is in shambles. But half the fucking league has a bad offensive line. There's just not that many good offensive linemen, much less great offensive lineman units. The fuck did he do? He did his job.
Not every team can have the offensive line that the Eagles have, or the teams have. But listen, Dan Orlovsky said it today. There has to be something else going on in that organization that's not being told.
Woody Johnson's a fucking dipshit owner. Bad ownership trickles down, man. People can blame Aaron Rodgers all they want. Aaron Rodgers has not put the blame on anybody publicly. He had some comments in regards to Mike Williams back in the preseason.
He's a veteran.
Before they had played the game. People they perceive Aaron Rodgers as the type of guy who would blame people, and so they imagine that he has blamed all these people that have gotten fired. He ain't firing anyone. Woody Johnson is
he doesn't have the power.
Yeah, Woody Johnson, any power – I said this before on a podcast. Woody Johnson, any power that Aaron Rodgers has, he has unofficially, and because Woody Johnson gives the air that he has power, which if anyone else is subservient to Aaron Rodgers, that's not just like players falling in line behind a Hall of Fame quarterback, it's because Woody Johnson has created an environment where everyone feels like Aaron Rodgers has some power. And if you're a player, especially Aaron Rodgers and the shit he talked about dealing with Green Bay, like if someone gives you some power, even if it's informal and it's not like tangible power, like you're gonna run with it. But Aaron Rodgers didn't fire Bob Saleh. Aaron Rodgers didn't demand that we go acquire these players. He might have made suggestions and everyone was like, oh shit, well, Woody Johnson wants us to do whatever Aaron Rodgers wants us to do. So he suggested maybe we should look into a trade for Devontae Adams. So we got to go trade for Devontae Adams. We got to do it, right? Otherwise, Aaron Rodgers is going to fire us, right? Because he could do that, right? Because he's got power, right? It's dumb. It's Woody Johnson. Woody Johnson sucks.
It's the media. The media always creates these narratives that are just like crazy just because it keeps getting clicks. It keeps getting views, and that's what it is. That's all it is.
But yeah, the Jets need this bye week because needing to get comfortable in the darkness. They're in that point laid up in a cell in the darkness. Which when you watch the movie, they weren't really in the dark. Like, it was kind of just a hole and there was light coming down. So I don't know what the fuck Bane was talking about. But that's neither here nor there. That's for another podcast and another lifetime. But the Jets not being on TV to be embarrassed is a good reason for them to have a bye.
I don't think it's going to help them whatsoever, but, whatever helps the poor fans of the New York Jets. I remember when I went to New York a couple of years ago on a Sunday in the fall. It was November. It was, I believe, Thanksgiving week. And I went on Sunday to a bar to watch the game. I met a nice fellow Eagles fan from Philadelphia that was watching the game there as well. But behind us, in the corner, there were a couple of Jets fans that were extremely pissed off. They were extremely annoyed. And I'm pretty sure they were at the brink of committing horrible acts of violence. Thankfully, it did not get to that. I feel for the Jets fans. I feel for you. I wish you the best. But this season ain't it. It wasn't last season. And guess what? It's not going to be next season either. Sorry.
All right, well, those are the bye teams. Do you have any other non-pick predictions for us?
Nah, I do not. I only did that Tommy DeVito one. I cannot come up with any prediction that could be possibly happening. I just know that DeVito is going to score those 2 touchdowns, and the New York fans are going to, be eating up all the marinara and the cutlets and stuff like that, and the eggplant parmesan, whatever the fuck it's called. I can't say that. Either way, yeah, I got no picks. Just that, just the two touchdowns at home for the Giants. I think it will be the first time they scored 2 touchdowns at home for like forever. So that's it. No interesting picks for you guys to bet on. Sorry.
All right, I got one. In lieu of you not having one here at the end, I got one. The Dallas Cowboys will sack Jaden Daniels at least 5 times on Sunday. At least 5 times. Write that down. I don't know who's getting them.
I got one for that game. I got one for that game. The Cowboys ain't doing shit.
Oh, God. All right, well, everybody, thanks for tuning in. Another week of picks. We'll see. Now that my picks are officially being tracked by Cesar, we'll see who wins next week. It's, of course, going to be me because Dallas is going to come through for your boy. But thanks for tuning in. Like, subscribe, do all that shit at Football Head Show on Instagram, Football Heads on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube. You can find Cesar at NOOB Football Fan on Instagram.
Twitter coming soon, or X.
Oh, God. No Blue Sky?
What's Blue Sky?
There's an AEW joke in there somewhere. But
oh, God.
Until next time, as always, take it easy, football heads.
God bless football.